And now it's Boomer Life. Lifestyle ideas designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation, this is Boomer Life with Stirling Fox.
Well, hello and welcome to Boomer Life here on AM 650. It's always a treat to be able to do the boating show with our guests from Boating BC, two of which are with us in studio tonight. Lawrence Fronczek is he's a broker with Specialty Yacht Sales in Vancouver. Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm great, thanks, Lawrence. Thanks for coming by. Good to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
And your partner here is also from Granville Island and Simply Sailing. Christof Marti is with us as well. Hello, Christof.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. A couple of interesting, very keen boating kind of guys. Let's find out a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about Boating BC and all the fun that can be had on the water.
Absolutely.
Christof, we'll start with you. You're Swiss.
That's right.
You learned to sail on the freshwater lakes of Switzerland. Tell us how a landlocked guy came to be a sailor in the first place. I didn't realize it was as popular a sport in Switzerland.
It is actually very popular. There's probably about 50 sailing clubs all around Switzerland, and my dad had a little sailboat, and he took me out as a teenager. I loved it. I took some sailing lessons, and then sailed for years and years on the lakes, and really got hooked on it.
How old were you when you took your first saltwater sail?
That took probably about 5 years. I was up in Finland where we have friends, and they took me out on their boat with their kids, and we sailed just through the islands off Helsinki, and that was wonderful. It was the first time I got sort of a taste of the open ocean and the salt water and visiting islands. It was beautiful.
Oh, okay, so it didn't cause any fear or anything like that. I found when I grew up on freshwater as well in central Canada in Ontario, and I found the ocean incredibly intimidating. I mean, there's not only there are live things out there that could eat you, it's just really deep and really could be whip up pretty scary. That didn't bother you? Mind you, you were with your family and with another family, lots of kids, lots of just a big old family outing, right? So the background was the ocean, not the big fear factor.
That's right. And my dad used to sail across the Mediterranean, so I knew he knew what he's doing, and he crossed the ocean, so I was pretty comfortable with that.
When did you come to Canada, Christof?
Probably about 10 years ago.
And did you get into the sailing business when you got here, or did that take a while?
It took a while. I was here with work in hydropower business, and that kept me reasonably busy. But then eventually I got out on the water. I went through racing, actually. It was Wednesday night racing that got me out on the water. And
I love racing.
it was great. It's exciting.
And you got hooked all over again.
Yeah, absolutely. Started all over again.
And now you've got Simply Sailing, an actual business down and been there for what, about 5 years on Granville Island now?
That's correct. We're about 5 years. We're only on Granville Island. Actually, the first season that we're stationed on Granville Island is this year. We're happy to be there. And 5 years since we started the school.
Our other guest is a local guy, grew up in West Vancouver, and rumor has it, I need to hear this story, tied to a mast at 16 months of age. Lawrence Fronczek from West Vancouver, tell us about that. And needless to say, you've been on the water since you were a squirt.
Yes, I was. And, tied to a mast at 16 weeks old. My parents didn't know what else to do with me. It's, an old 16-footer that we had in the family, and fantastic. And I started working down at Thunderbird Yacht Sales, cleaning boats at 8 years old.
My goodness. Was your dad in the business?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
And then at 14, I worked my first boat show. I sold a Yamaha 30 in 1981. And
you sold a 30-foot boat at age 14?
Yes.
Well, no wonder you're in the business.
Well,
My gosh.
There's a story around that later on, too. But and then started with Specialty Yachts full-time in 1990 and bought the business outright in 2006, and I love it.
Now, Specialty Yachts sells power boats, or do you sell power and sailboats?
Well, we're the oldest sailboat yacht brokerage and new boat sales in British Columbia.
That's 50 years this year, isn't it?
It's our 50th anniversary this year.
I'd forgotten about that.
And
congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's a big deal, and we're very happy to be here. We also sell power boats, mainship trawlers, and Marlowe hunters.
Oh, okay. What are the last two?
The last, it's a Haifa name. David Marlowe took ownership of the factory about 3 years ago now, and now they're Marlowe Hunter sailboats and Marlowe mainship trawlers.
Oh, all right. So it was one of those merger things that is still quite successfully afloat.
Absolutely.
So both of you come to this program as members of Boating BC. Now, Lawrence, you have a bit of a background with the executive of BC, Boating BC. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was a board member for 8 years and past vice president of Boating BC. Also, I'm a continuing member of the British Columbia Yacht Brokers Association, which is a sector group of Boating BC, and I've been a board member there for 19 years. And I'm the current liaison officer between the two boards, between Boating BC and the British Columbia Yacht Brokers Association.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about buying boats as part of this program. Boy, have we got the right guy in the studio for this. You sold your first boat at 14.
Yes, I did.
You know the drill.
Yeah.
Now, Christof, talk to us a little bit about Simply Sailing, the business. What do you sell boats? Is it about education? Is it a combination of the two? Tell us about the enterprise on Granville Island.
What we do is we get people involved in boating. We do sail training.
Okay.
We focus on sailboats, and we get people out on the water anywhere from a day on the bay all the way to sailing offshore, from actually leaving in a week to bring a boat full of students back from Hawaii to Vancouver.
Wow, that'd be a nice ride, wouldn't it? How many days? How many days on the open water?
We plan on 16 days.
Wow.
But who knows? The winds will tell us how long it will actually take. So we do pretty much everything. We're part of BC Sailing, which is the umbrella organization for all boat training in BC.
And we've had the executive director, Tina Moberg, on Boomer Life, and she was sensational. And you work closely with her, don't you?
Yes, I'm together with, actually Tina is the executive director of the board, and I'm a board member with BC Sailing,
right.
And in that capacity I'm responsible for the boat training, sail training in all of BC, and trying to get the schools work together, trying to get the clubs work together, because there's not only sailing schools where sail training happens, there's also sailing clubs.
Oh, okay, because I'm glad you just sort of opened that door, and thank you, ever so skillfully too, Christof. I was out with my wife just the other day, we were down at White Rock, where we lived for over 30 years, one of my favorite spots on the planet. So we're walking out on the pier, watching the kids do the pier diving and the crab fishing, and there's a big sign at the very, very end of White Rock Pier, it says, "Learn your boating safety," and it's a metallic sign put up by the Canadian Power Squadron and Sail Association. I may not have that name correct, Lawrence, but it's pretty close.
Yes, it is.
And are they an educational outfit? Is that mostly what they do?
Yes, that's all they do, and they do a lot of classroom studies and teaching boating from a classroom standpoint. And then there's other schools like Simply Sailing, where Christof will be an expert in actually taking people out on their own boat or on boats that are in charter.
Oh, okay.
Or their own boats in their fleet.
So, Christof, the Power Squadron is basically more classroom oriented than on the water oriented. Am I generalizing too much, or is that pretty good?
That's pretty good, and they're very popular across Canada.
Sure, they are.
They have a wonderful base of teachers who are often coming from a professional background, who've been lifelong boaters, and now they're passing their knowledge on to new boaters. And their programs are really well respected in the industry. And now they pass them on to schools like us and others that then get the people out on the water, because ultimately you have to be on the water to enjoy boating.
Absolutely. Well, I have a similar kind of a parallel experience. I'm a scuba diver. And when you get your scuba license,
yes.
you spend time in the classroom first.
Yep.
There's a lot of just facts and figures,
yep.
and pressure and all that stuff to learn. And then, and only then, you go out on the water, and then you do your dives, and eventually you become accredited. So it's a gradual process, and it's an orientation thing where you pull the participants in, and they progress at their level too. There's no deadline or anything like that. You bring them along, Christof, as they develop.
That's right. And everybody learns different, and there's different programs. We can do this on a half a day or a day on the bay, as we call it, or people that are more adventurous, they can come and spend a week with us. They can go explore the Gulf Islands. We go up the coast. We go around Vancouver Island. And there is really no deadline. There's different levels, and people can go, and they go as far as they want. Mm-hmm. They can learn what they want on the size of the boats they like to, and then they might then go on their own at some point, or they come back and do more training. It's open. You never stop learning when you're sailing.
Right. Now, this is probably not the right question to ask a guy who sells boats for a living, Lawrence,
yep.
but it's not necessary to own a boat to be a boater and enjoy boating, is it?
Absolutely not. There are charter companies up and down the coast that are fantastic, that have a wider range of models, both sail and power, that can meet everybody's budget to get you out on the water inexpensively and enjoy this amazing province we have on the water.
Right. Now, I think if you're thinking or considering even buying a boat, wouldn't you want to do that? Wouldn't you want to rent a boat or do a charter and try a small this and a larger that, and try a few on for size before you sink any dough into something? Because if you're not familiar enough, that's a significant enough investment that you don't want to get it wrong.
Well, it's very hard to get it wrong. Just getting out on the water, whether you're on a board, on a kayak, on a sailing dinghy, on a bigger sailboat or a power boat, you're on the water. And I guarantee anybody that's ever experienced, even from the smaller boat to larger one, you won't get off once you're there.
That's true, even with the boards. I know this is not a boating thing, but just a couple of weeks ago, we were up in Tofino on vacation, and of course Tofino's super surfy now, right? There's still the fishing fleet there, of course, but it's all about surfers. And they get and they run into the water. They get that board under and they run into the water. They just can't get there fast enough and stay out for hours. And it's just a blast to watch them. It's that passion. And these aren't all kids.
No,
these
they're not.
People in wetsuits, so you get the black wetsuit, and you know you don't even know what gender they are in some cases. All you know is here's a passionate individual who's got a 9-foot surfboard, and it weighs a fair bit, and they're running into the water. So that's enthusiasm.
Yes, it is. It's playing.
And boating people share that. If they could run with their boat into the water to launch it, they'd do it too, wouldn't they?
They probably
would. Just a little weight and mass to deal with. But it's the same degree of enthusiasm, isn't it?
Yeah.
So talk to us, Christof, a little bit about that passion, the drive that you and Lawrence and all your colleagues in Boating BC share and hope in some way to pass along to people, particularly, this is Boomer Life. This is AM 650. A lot of people in our listening audience are crazy boaters. They can't get enough of it. Others have been out for a little spin every now and then, gone for a fishing trip, gone a little Saturday barbecue or a little spin on the lake. But, there are some of us who have never owned a boat, but have these bucket lists.
Yes.
And a bucket list, a boat, is not a rare thing to have on a person's bucket list, particularly as they approach their retirement. Maybe they got a buck or two in the bank and a little bit more time than they used to have. So is it too late, Lawrence, if you're 55 plus and you can afford it and you got the time, but you really have no exposure or experience? Is it too late to get started?
It is never too late. It's too late when you have decided against starting. That's when it's too late.
Okay.
But the boats are available to any age group. We've actually designed them to make them easier to sail.
Now, you told us, we were having coffee, Christof and Lawrence and I were having coffee before we started, and Lawrence very casually leans over and says, well, the bigger the boat you buy, actually the easier it is to maneuver.
Yes,
and I thought, are you kidding me? One of those big old things? And why? It's because of the technology, isn't it?
Modern innovations.
Yeah.
Yeah, the newer, bigger sailboats. I just sold a 50-foot sailboat that has a stern thruster and a bow thruster, in-mast furling. These are items that will allow a boat to be sailed by somebody up into their 80s, and you can dock it with one person. Whereas going back 25 years ago when I started full-time in this industry, there's no way that you could handle a 50-foot boat by yourself.
Right.
You need a couple people on board, help with lines when you're coming into dock.
Sure.
And power boats are even easier in the larger ones to handle. They're so innovative now that you can press a button and the boat just sits there and hovers while you handle with the lines. And then you come back with a little remote and you can dock it with a remote.
That's unbelievable.
It isn't. You can just see it on any marina where you go to. And there's one person handling.
People docking boats with a remote control in there.
Exactly.
Oh, this I have to see. I guess you'll have to have me down to Granville Island since you both work down there. We'll have to have a coffee and then you can show me some of these the newfangled tricks. Christof, with respect to sailing, a lot of people are reluctant to go there because they go, it's like the difference between hang gliding and flying an aircraft. What happens if there's no wind? And if you're a sailor, and I've actually been on a sailboat coming in from English Bay to our moorage at Cole Harbor, it was dead calm. absolutely dead calm, and we had sails up because the engine conked out, and we're under the Lions Gate Bridge. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're tired and hungry. All of a sudden, on the intercom from the bridge, lower your sails immediately. There are no sails allowed under the Lions Gate Bridge. And, of course, we're going, but if we lower our sails, we're going to sit here and bob around like a cork for the next few hours. And eventually some nice person in a powerboat came by, threw us a line, and brought us in. But that was the worry, Christof, about sailing. What happens if the engine conks out and you got no wind? It's a big boat to paddle.
That's true. We're big boats to paddle. Now, we do hope for wind. Of course, we're sailboats. We love to sail. We bring an engine along. There is an engine on most of these boats now.
True.
And they're called auxiliary engines to help us just in case if we need to get somewhere when there's no wind. But let me tell you this. Like, if you go out and usually we leave the marina, we get out onto the Lions Gate Bridge just like your experience, and we have to motor because the voice of God will come and tell
and
you.
They're not shy, are they?
No, they're not. And so we're going out there and we're motoring. Everybody's happy, excited. We're going to go to the Gulf Islands. And then as soon as we stop that engine and have the sails up, everybody goes, oh, that's nice. We enjoy that now. And so it's this sort of, they're used to the engine because it gives them safety, and yes, we can drive it. We're not depending on the wind so much. But as soon as they learn how to deal with the wind and the sails, they're so much happier because all the noise is gone, and it's just the sheer phenomenon of being driven through the water by wind alone without any mechanical help is just fascinating.
It is quite a sensation. I mean, I appreciate, I enjoy a good fast power boat as much as the next guy, but it really is something else. Again, it's otherworldly to be out there absolutely just screaming along the water with nothing powering you but a bunch of cloth and Mother Nature just blowing hard. And you're listed right over, and everybody's leaning off the other side, and you are going like smoke out there. That's amazing.
It is.
It is fascinating. Like we had this great experience one of the nights we sailed on a bigger boat. And we're sailing down the waves. You got reasonably big waves, nothing scary, just enough to give us a nice push each time the boat rolls down. And we're standing behind the wheel, and the sails are full. And we coined the term sailing nirvana. That was just fabulous. Everybody was just happy on the boat, and everybody was in the right place, and sort of all the worries of the daily life are gone. We're just surfing down the waves on these big boats.
Sailing nirvana.
There you go.
It has a certain cachet to it now, doesn't it? We need to take a quick break here. It's the Boat Show on this episode of Boomer Life here on AM 650. Lawrence Fronczek and Christof Marti from Boating BC are our guests, and we'll be right back after this quick time out.
It's all about the baby boomer lifestyle. Boomer Life on AM 650.